another video in the series. Now, I bet you can't guess what we're going to talk about this time. Mixed media, my favorite. I absolutely love mixed media. So when you're scrapbooking, there is so many things that you can, so many different things that you can use to make your layouts not only fun to create, but make them an extension of who you are as a person. Like, you may be introverted and yet you may love color. This is your world. This is the beginning of a whole new thing for you guys. I have gathered together just a couple of my bits and pieces so I don't appear too needy too much. So which ones of these can you live without? In my opinion, absolutely none. So this is what I'm going to take you through. I'll take you through step by step. Okay, so the most expensive tool that I have in my arsenal is this one. This one here. It is plastic. It is what your cardstock comes wrapped in. It's what all your different bits and pieces that you purchase, all your ephemera, it comes wrapped in this stuff. Keep every single bit, because all you have to do is grab your scissors, trim yourself a chunk, and you've got yourself a palette that you don't have to clean and wash paint down the drain. All you have to do is throw it in the bin. So that is the most expensive tip I will ever give you. Keep your plastic, because you know what? If we have to have plastic wrapped around absolutely everything, we've paid for it, we might as well use it. Now, on the paint palette side of things. So I'm talking all things mixed media. I'm talking everything from mica powders to lunar paste to all sorts of things. Paint, watercolor, everything. Now, you can use a palette like this, depending what you're using. You can buy these palettes. They're like next to nothing. They're like $5 for half a dozen of them. I don't use them a lot. I do use them if I'm going to use a distress spray and I want to put some in here so I don't lose it all over a plastic sheet. If it's something that I want to paint on, I did do that in a video a few weeks ago. If you're watching this when this goes up, that's what I use these for, pretty much. Or if I'm using something like Lindy's Magicals, I will put them in here so that they stay contained, because you've got to add water to them. So that's a handy little tool to have in your arsenal. Now, when you're using mixed media, another thing that you will need, you cannot have one, but it makes the process take forever. So buy yourself a heat gun, because not only will you need one of these to be able to use embossing powders and everything that entails, but it helps you with your mixed media because it allows you to dry things quickly. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. I don't know where that came from. I'm terribly sorry. Actually, I do know where it came from. I've been recording for like hours. I apologize. I needed a drink. Okay. Keep going, Karen. You've got this. Right. The very beginning of any page, I put down gesso. Now, gesso is I'll be talking about it in another video, explaining which ones I like and don't like. But this magical little tool, it's a silicone brush, and this thing's amazing because it doesn't sop it up. I used to always use these ones. Now, these are a 4 and 6 number gesso brush, which is fantastic. I actually, I did this on purpose, believe it or not. I left the paint in the end of it because it gives me really cool marks when I drag it through when I'm doing mixed media. So that's what I did on the end of that one. But this one I actually used to use for gesso, and I would paint it on because that's what they are. They're gesso brushes, and that's what I'd use. But since using this, I go through less gesso because it doesn't soak it up. You don't waste it in the bristles of the brush. So, and you get a much smoother finish. So this is a Finnabair Art Basics number 2 inch. It's a 2 inch gesso brush. So silicone brush. Awesome. You could, if you're desperate, you can use a foam brush as well. I have done that. Pardon me. I have done that, but yeah, again, like this, you kind of lose some of your product and that costs money. So I try to steer clear of that. Now, next thing, what else are we going to talk about? Let's talk about, we'll go to the palette knives. We're going to sort of skip across a little bit here. So palette knives. Now, when it comes to palette knives, you can buy metal ones like these, which are super, super flexible and they're fantastic. I like using these ones to mix my mediums more so than putting them on my, if I'm using a canvas, I will use these. But when it comes to a scrapbooking layout, I generally use these cheapies because I love them. I very, very rarely, I will tell you right here, right now, that one, and that one, I pretty much very, very rarely ever use. I use this one for grabbing Luna paste out of the tub or any kind of medium out of a tub because it's got a nice small, and I'm not grabbing too much of the product. These two I don't really use. To be completely honest with you, I very, very rarely use them. I prefer an offset spatula, the same as what I do when I'm doing my cake making. I like an offset spatula, and I find that I prefer this one because it's got a longer piece on it and it allows you to scrape through a stencil or spread across a layout more like a bread and butter knife. That's my preference. These plastic ones, dirt cheap in your $2 shop. You can grab them for like $4 or $5, if that. And that's Australian prices, by the way. So they're pretty cheap for us. Not much in Australia is very cheap, but that is cheap. So that's my palette knife situation. Now, aside from the palette knives, we then have, obviously you have scrapers. This one is a wall scraper. This is one that I used. I gave this a try with the gesso to try and get it nice and smooth before I got the silicone brush. I also use this for line making and stuff when I'm using my canvas, or when it comes to scrapbooking, sometimes I like to use texture pastes and stuff like that, and I like to just make my own marks sometimes, so I use that for that. I also purchased last year or the beginning of this year 2 new rollers. These are brayers. These are fantastic. These were not the cheapest, but they have metal hardware, so you don't wear through them. They're, I had some plastic ones, and I'll be honest with you, over a very short amount of time, it worked its way through here, and brayer be gone. It was gone. So I bought these 2. I did buy these off Amazon AU, and I will be honest with you, they were about, I think they were about $15 or $16 each. So it was a bit of an investment, but they do have the plate on the back. So whenever you, FYI, in case you don't know this, when you are finished with a brayer, don't ever put it down like that because it will leave a flat spot, okay? Always put it down that way or store it upright. That is top tip from someone that learnt the hard way. So always try and buy a brayer that has a resting thing on the back. I know the Tim Holtz ones do have these as well, but these ones were what I went for because of price, to be completely honest with you, if I'm totally honest. Okay, and then we're over to these guys. Now, when it comes to paint and other mixed media mediums, you can use any brush you like. There is no rules, okay? When it comes to scrapbooking, throw the rule book out the door, try what you like, see what feels good to you, and if it does and it works, then it's right. Cut and dry. That's my theory, okay? Now, I have just purchased these yellow ones because I needed a top up because I've been using this fan brush. These are Montmart brushes and I love them. They are a decent price point. They are not ridiculous, and I'm not trying to tack. Sorry, I'm trying to separate them a little bit. Do not leave your brushes in water like I have done with this one since I used it earlier in the week. Take it out of the water. Don't do that. It's like the worst thing to do with a brush. But that being said, this is what happens to them when you do that. And, you know, other than throwing money at a wall and just for something stupid to do, it wrecks your brushes, and it's why. So try not to do that. If you've got a craft room space like I have, it's easy to leave them in there, but try not to do it. Now, with all these brushes, these guys give you, I will be doing another video to show you all the splatters and stuff, but these guys, these fan brushes give you the best little teeny tiny splatters. They're fantastic, and you can pick up, I literally picked up this pack of brushes. I think there's one more hidden somewhere over there, and they were like $5. And it comes with their watercolor brushes, and they come with a flat around. This one is a round, but it's a round 8. That's a round 4. The fan brush, that's a number 7 fan. Look, it pretty much came exactly the same as this set, but it's yellow now. And the purple is Montmart as well, because Montmart is a brand that we have here in Australia. It's actually an Australian owned company. And I honestly, for their brushes, for what I do, why not? Good price point. The only other bits and pieces I can tell you, these are some silicone tipped brushes. Again, they're Montmart. They're for sculpting. You can create some pretty groovy lines and dots and dashes in your texture paste with that. The other thing that is super helpful is having 2 containers of water. When, hey, there's the other palette knife I was looking for. Have 2 containers of water. Have a dirty one and a clean one for whenever you're using any products, especially, you know, if you've paid good money for your product, well, you don't want to waste it. So you don't want to muddy it up and make it look dodgy. So, you know, have 2. The only other thing I'm adding to this one, and I know I'm dragging on here, is a good misting tool, and I have a spare bottle of water in my craft room to top this up because it just makes life easier. And this misting bottle I got from Amazon AU. It was about $6.99. They're down to about $6.99. I think I paid $10 or $12 for it, but they're down to about $6.99 now, and they are fantastic. They give you a nice continuous mist of water, and it is brilliant. I absolutely love it. So that is it for this section. Apologies for all the banging and clanging whilst we play with all the brushes and all the fun stuff. And I will be back with another video right after this. Thanks guys. Bye for now.